And welcome to the 1 year anniversary of All or None According to Jack. Yes, 1 year ago, uh, I decided to start this channel. So about a year ago, or maybe a little more than a year ago, I was thinking to myself, so here I am. I love doing this, not getting enough invitations to Sea of Tranquility, getting a little bored. I want to do my own content. So what do I do? Do I be miserable or do I just go for it and start my own channel and see where this thing's going to go? Didn't know where it was going to go. Uh, it took me, I would say, a good week, 4 or 5 days to get up the nerve and to start actually recording myself. I did a couple of test recordings. I mean, in a white T-shirt, without the Led Zeppelin. Uh, did some singing. I did it with a Las Vegas background and sang "Viva Las Vegas." Ridiculous. So that's never aired, but I do have it if everybody wants to see it. But in any event, finally got the nerve. I recorded that introductory episode, and then here we are a year later. So let's reflect on that a little bit. So try opening it up. We just recently passed 35,000 views. I have 493 subscribers, so please help me out, people. I really want to get to 500. Tell your friends to subscribe for me. I would really greatly appreciate it. Videos, that hasn't been an episode that I've recorded. That really hasn't been an issue. Did I say episode? It's the beauty of live TV. So we've recorded 123 episodes. This is episode number 124. So we're going to go through some fun statistics. Let's go back to, okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, right, so I said 35,000, just a little bit over, 123. So we have about an average of 285 per episode. I would say I average about in 25% of my videos, I average at least one guest. So we'll talk about who my guests are, but first, let's talk. And again, this is the background that I started with, and I didn't have any PowerPoint at the time. So we're going to do this without PowerPoint, but we're going to talk about my top 15 episodes that were viewed. So number 15 was an idea that I first brought to Mr. Pete Pardo over on Sea of Tranquility. Let's talk about, in the life of certain people. And we did a day in the life of Pete, which did very well. And for whatever reason, he said, no, take it over to your channel. So I did that. And the idea is not totally dead. I mean, I will have some other guests from time to time. It's just not a very burning topic at the moment. But number 15 was when I did a day in the life with, what the heck's his name? Mr. Rock Fantasy himself, Steven Keeler. We had 546 views. This was as of yesterday. Number 14 was another A Day in the Life episode, but on the flip side, this was when Mr. Pete Pardo interviewed me at my request on my birthday last year, June 5th. We had 570 views for that. So I want to thank everybody for coming on board and watching. Number 13 was my 2021 top songs and groups that Spotify actually tabulated for me. Now, we're not going to do it for 2022 because I'll explain that at a later date, but I didn't like the results that came through this year, and it just felt a little biased. Like I listened to too much of one band that which is not the truth. And I did some reviews, album reviews earlier in the year, and I have to give them these albums multiple listens to be able to talk about them properly. It put too many of these songs in my top 100 songs, so it's not a true reflection. But I do have another idea that we'll cover instead of that. But that was number 13. So the 2021 top songs and groups, 576 views. Number 12, and this was a very interesting episode. This was episode number 54. And this is a topic about my favorite metal band, Judas Priest. This was a rant that I did back in May 5th of 2022, where I did some bitching and complaining about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the fact that I felt at the time that Judas Priest didn't get equal billing with other groups that were inducted. Instead, they were inducted under this musical excellence category. But after the fact, when it did happen, and I watched it, you know what? It seemed like they did get equal billing to these other bands. They were celebrated for a good half an hour. They got to come up and speak, and they got to perform their three most famous songs. You know what they are. And then there was like a 5-minute history of the band. So I thought it was, at the end of the day, it was pretty cool. But we got 614 views for that. Number 11 was another Judas Priest topic. Instead, I hadn't been to a concert in several years due to COVID and this project that I have, my second home upstate. But I finally broke down, bought a ticket, went to see Judas effing Priest in Albany, New York at the MVP Arena. And I ran into Mr. Chris Allo at that show, also Kyle Hummel. But I did an episode with Chris Allo reviewing that concert, 706 reviews. Always a pleasure having Mr. Allo on with me, and funny as shit. So thanks, Mr. Allo. Number 10, yet another episode regarding Judas Priest. Now, mind you, not all of my episodes have to do with Judas Priest, but this one did. This was back in January, and this show was not even a month old. My son Jason and I were down in Florida, and the news broke while I was down there that Rob Halford had the brilliant idea, let's make Judas Priest a foursome. Let's not have Andy Sneap as guitarist anymore. Bad idea. Everybody jumped all over it. And me, it was a hot story, and this show was in its infancy, and I'm like, you know what? I've got to put something out there. So I used my phone. Where is it? It's recording. It's charging. My crappy iPhone 7. So I happened to, and I didn't want to do this at my parents' house because I was a little embarrassed, and I didn't want them and my son to poke fun at me. Oh, look at him. Oh, he's a knucklehead he's very silly recording his own show. So what I did, I took my rental vehicle and I drove down to what's known as Ponce Inlet. It's at the bottom. It's like a little south of Daytona Beach shores, where I understand they got hit very bad with a tornado. Or not a tornado, a hurricane a few months ago. So wish them all well down there. Beautiful community. So down at Ponce Inlet, it's, you're basically a little peninsula you're on, and it was very windy that day. I actually wanted to record with the beach as a backdrop, the beach and, the lifeguard tower and whatnot, but it was just too freaking windy. So I ended up sitting in my rental car. It was a 14-minute video, and I did not have a script to go on. It was all 14 minutes unscripted. It was a miracle. I was able to get all the material that I wanted to talk about. And it did pretty well, 837 views. So thank you for that, everybody. So number 9, I did talk about my premiere introduction from 1 year ago. That was 909 views. My goal is to try and get all of these videos over 1,000. So it's still trickling up there. So eventually it might make it to 1,000. Episode number 8. So this is about a different band that I am a huge fan of, Jethro Tull. A viewer of both Sea of Tranquility and occasionally of my show. He lives in Pennsylvania. His name is Steve Buckley. He did an episode, or rather, he did this video, and he released it on full-length video, concert video that he released on Vimeo. And I do have the link on my review of the Tull Phenomenon, it's called. So if you ever want to check it out, this guy did a beautiful job enhancing not only the audio, but so say for example, they're playing a song like not Songs from the Wood, an older song. What's an old Jethro Tull song? Oh, Sweet Dream, that's it. So basically, if he played the song Sweet Dream in the concert, he would have different video spliced in from different eras of Jethro Tull. So it could have been from the 1975 Minstrel in the Gallery tour, Songs from the Wood tour, or what's the 1982 tour? I name escapes me. Oh, geez, I can't think of the name of that album, but he did have some tours from the 1980s. There was Stormwatch in '79, could have played there. But anyway, he did a beautiful job. I did have him on my show on another date where he talked about the making of that video. That's at 955, so people, go check it out. It is video number 31. I want to get that one over 1,000. So help me out there, folks. And check out this if you have any interest at all in Jethro Tull, definitely check it out. I was upstate without the benefit of any cable at the time, but I did have Wi-Fi, so I watched this in its entirety. It was the coolest thing. All right, brings us to number 7. I didn't do too many album reviews, but earlier in the year I tried to do some. This one was Saxon's new album, Carpe Diem. 1,106 views. That's one of 7 recordings that I have that are 1,000 or better. That was very cool. Number 6. So back in early October, my good friend Mr. Pardo had the Sea of Tranquility Fest. So I did 2 videos on that. This was the second one where I had Pete Pardo as a guest on my show. And basically it was a 40-minute recap of the whole process. It was question and answer, some questions that I had for Pete, and went very well. 1,115 views. Okay, to my top 5. These were 2 guests that I had, Armando Venditti and George LeMay. We talked about a rant of the whole Chris Rock, Will Smith incident, where Will Smith played the fool and got up and went and slapped Chris Rock in the face on stage. Dumb move. Totally dumb move. But that garnered me 1,187 views. Okay, so number 4. and I'm extremely proud of this one. Knowing Judas Priest as well as I do, uh, I did a Judas Priest ranking the albums of all 18 albums of theirs. That garnered me 1,315 views. Number 3, this was my first video to break 1,000, and boy, it was a very proud moment. And what the weird thing is, it happened on my wife's birthday, February 3rd. I was only about less than 2 months in. It was a review of the Jethro Tull album, The Zealot Gene. It was a mixed review, not really a great review, but it got me 1,000 views very fast. I was over the moon with excitement. Right now, I'm at 1,893 views. So keep them coming, folks. That was video number 18. Never did I think that I would get to 1,000 that fast, but knock on wood, it happened. All right, so number 2. At the time, and I did this recording back in mid-April with a very special guest, one Mr. Martin Popoff, a famous Canadian rock journalist and author. I did buy a book of his. I bought a coffee table book about my beloved Judas Priest, and you did a beautiful job on that book, Martin. Definitely going to buy some more books from you. Please let me know when that Kiss book comes out that you were talking about, because I want it, and maybe several more. I actually saw one of your books in Barnes and Noble in Manhattan about a week ago when I was there. But so this was a day in the life of Martin Popoff. I knew this was going to do well, but never in my wildest dreams did I think that it would. It's at 2,736 views. So thank you so much for that, Martin. And, you were a great guest, 40 minutes. And, a couple people complained and said, only Martin did the heavy lifting and you did a crap job and you rode his coattails. And meanwhile, a bunch of other people, Mr. Pardo included, said that I brought out a few things out of Mr. Popoff that even he never knew. And they're on a show together every week. So think about that, folks. So thank you to those who were supported it and told me good job. You're the bomb. Okay, my number 1. Never, and I thought this was going to do well. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that it was going to do 4,639 views. Again, we're talking about the Sea of Tranquility Fest recap. Number 1, slideshow. Basically, I took all my pictures. I took a bunch of pictures that other people did, other SOT folks and friends of the close friends of the channel. And I took some of those pictures, I put it in a PowerPoint slideshow, talked about it a bit. I knew that there were going to people were going to be curious as to how it went and what we did. Unfortunately, due to some copyright reasons and other reasons, Pete wasn't able to show much of that footage. So I knew people would be curious, but in our discussion in the second recap, who knows? Maybe we might be able to do some other ideas and make it a little better next year. But at least people had a little souvenir to go on my show. And this was October 6th, 5 days after the event. So thank you so much for that, everybody. All right. Lastly, let's talk about some of the guests that we had on my show. And you know what? Like I said, 25% of my shows have had guests. I don't do it very regularly, as regularly as Pete might do on Sea of Tranquility. I know some of the other people who have rock-related channels like me on YouTube, and Pete will occasionally have guests, like Guitar Hack occasionally has guests. So my guests, and I'm going to go in order of top guests, and down to guests that have not been on as often. So my number one guest, and this is a guy who I feel has been one of my biggest supporters, and I can't thank you enough. He was actually, so this good friend of mine is from Norway. He was actually in the States. I didn't get to hang out with him because he went out to the West Coast, but I'm talking Ove Rendem with 7 views, rather 7 episodes. He's been on episodes Seinfeld related. He actually did one. He's been on a couple of my top 3 metal review episodes. He helped me do my ranking the albums of Kiss. In fact, there was so much material, we turned that into a part 1 and a part 2. He was also, and I'll talk about this one a little later, but yeah, I'll talk about this one a little later, but I'll remember to talk about this Ove. So Ove, 7 views. 6 views goes to my daughter Samantha's boyfriend, George Parsakian. He's done 5 episodes with me, all pro wrestling related. But George is a natural when it comes to all things pro wrestling. And in the coming year, I was thinking of having him on for some baseball talk, but unfortunately, Mets and Yankees let us both down and shit the bed early in the playoffs. So there went that idea. But maybe we'll have him on for some early baseball speak. All right, my third guest that's appeared the most times, Mr. Pete Pardo himself. He's been on 4 times. A couple times we did talk about baseball. What else? What else did I have him on for? I had him on for the SOT Fest recap, one of the 2, and the day in the life of me. Number 4, with 3 appearances, Mr. Chris Allo. A couple times to talk about wrestling, 1 time to talk about our beloved Judas Priest. So then I got about, let's see, 3, 4, 5 people tied for 2 appearances each. So there was John Clauser, Stephen Keeler, George LeMay. And by the way, George, I understand it's your birthday today, so a very happy birthday to you, sir. Hope you have a great day. And of course, my good friend from the north of the border, Rick Labonte, who put out his own album recently. Hang on a second. All right, I'm back. Yeah, I just had to get a CD off the shelf, and I had just mentioned Mr. Rick Labonte. This is a CD that I bought from Rick. It's called Living It Up. You should really check it out. It is really good. It is a mixture of, hard rock, some classic rock sounding, a little influence of Uriah Heep. I know he is they're one of his favorite bands, so definitely check this album out. All right, so single appearances and I'm sorry, 1 more with 2 appearances. My brother from the same mother, Mr. Andrew Toledano, my brother. He did a cameo with me and my dad while we were on the beach just south of Daytona Beach in New Smyrna Beach. So check that out. And he did an episode which ended up having to fall into 2 parts regarding Steely Dan, a favorite of both of us. But toward the very end, he lost his internet and he froze, so I had to kill the end the video and I don't have the equipment to splice, so we just recorded about a 10-minute wrap up to, for our #1 favorite song. So definitely check that out. My brother Andrew talks about the fact that he's a drummer for, for a band. So all good stuff. So people who have either had cameos or have been in one episode is Charles Alvarez, who's on in the Prague seat. He was on with Pete and I for a Mets episode. One of my Lodge brothers, Scott Ballard. Steve Buckley, who I mentioned, was on an episode with me to talk about the making of the Jethro Tull phenomenon. Definitely check it out if you're a fan. It kicks ass. And if you go to watch, as I said, if you go to watch that review, the link is in there, so you can just click it and go right on and watch it in Vimeo. Okay, so a few people. I did an episode back in end of September, episode number 75. Basically, I came up with this idea to do an album battle, my first one, of two albums that are considered much maligned albums. Kiss's album, The Elder, and Judas Priest's album, Nostradamus. Which one was better? Which one sucked worse? Things of that nature. There was some good comedy in there. So that was the first episode that I had with the most guests. I had 5 guests that day. So I had Ryan Gavalier, Ove Rendem, John Clauser, Davey Gallagher, and Peter Jones. So Davey, Ryan, Peter, they were all on for one episode. One of my Lodge brothers, Aaron Kupferberg, who is also an author. He wrote a book about power pop. Unfortunately, I don't think I have the book handy at the moment. I could probably go get the book, but basically what he did was he just gave it an update recently. So he's added more power pop information to that book, so check it out. I did one of the most famous people that I had on my show once was Dave LaGreca, who has his own I guess radio podcast, I think it is, and I think it's called Busted Open, but very good guest. We talked about and George Parsakian was in that as well. We talked about our favorite wrestling heels or wrestling bad guys. And, you got to know that while we boo them, they help make the show these wrestling shows a great success. Because, you need a really good bad guy to bolster these good guys. So there was Martin Popoff, who I mentioned, Armando Venditti, and then cameos by both my father, Harv Toledano, and my son, Jason Toledano. These were both in on location videos. So that's that. So I want to thank all my guests. I want to thank everybody for watching. And you know what? Here's to hoping that the year 2023 is going to be an even better year for All or Not, according to Jack. So again, thank you for watching. Put your comments in the comments section, and I will be back Saturday or Sunday. I have some other fun stuff to talk about, so stay tuned. Bye.